All right, man, let's just dig in. Profit First
Do it.
Real Estate Investors. So you're the author of this book. You put this book out. This is an extension of another book, Profit First, by Mike
Yep.
McAllowitz, right? And he wrote that book.
Correct.
And you basically saw a need for real estate investors because this is your niche, your industry. You're around real estate investors. So why did you feel the need to take this concept of Profit First into the real estate industry?
My first interaction with it was when I was working with a real estate investor, helped him clean up his numbers and the books and just get that clarity of like, here's what you're spending. Like he didn't even have that. Like, and he didn't even know what he was making. And I know that sounds funny, but a lot of people come up to me and have said, like, we just don't know those basic numbers in our business. And after that happened, and it opened up doors for him because literal doors, because he had rental properties, but he had a big a smaller rental portfolio and was able to refinance some and put some of his equity back into his pocket. And he told me, like, just knowing those numbers and being able to have money and that cash in the bank, because this was like right at the beginning of the pandemic when I was working with this guy. And he said, I love sitting on cash right now because I don't know where the market's going to go. I have opportunities and options, to be able to do whatever I want to do. And he said, this has been transformational, to my life. And I said, okay, well, I need to do this with more people and help others. And a mentor reached out to me and told me about the book Profit First. And see, because I told him what I was thinking of doing, of helping real estate investors just unlock knowing their numbers, like knowing where they stand to make better decisions. And he said, have you read Profit First? I said, no. So I downloaded that book that evening, took 10 pages of notes, read the whole thing, and said, I love the framework. And I love the framework of Profit First and the habits that it instills and just the whole philosophy and mindset. But then as I started trying to implement it with real estate investors, I saw that there was definitely nuances in the real estate investing world. Just how we calculate profit and how we calculate a profit on a deal versus someone who sells a widget in a store or a brick and mortar or a restaurant or a service-based business. It's very different. We in real estate investing, we'll deal with assets all the time. And in a restaurant industry, they might have assets, but their main thing is like they get customers coming in, there's income and you sell it. Or if it's a service-based business like bookkeeping or, like property management, it's income comes in, expenses go out. That's about it. They're not owning, property management doesn't own the real estate that they're managing. So that's where I saw a huge need to clarify, how do you do this system for the real estate investor who's owning actual brick mortar buildings, that they're using, and then how do they actually implement this across the board? Because there's a lot of questions. That's where you get into it, the nitty gritty portion. Like you said in the book, I get down into the nitty gritty because it's all the questions I got during my time implementing it for, like a year before I went to Mike and said, we just got to get a book out there so I can answer a lot of questions that people have about the real estate investing industry when it comes to Profit First versus just trying to help a million people all at the same time.
Yeah. No, definitely huge need. You kind of start off your book talking about this real estate rat race. And it's funny because people get into real estate to get out of the rat race, but you actually put them together. You said, well, there's also a real estate rat race. So to describe that, what does that even look like when someone's in this real estate rat race?
So the typical rat race that we think about is that 9 to 5. You get up in the morning, you go to work, you do the commute, you come back home in the evening, and you do it all over again the next day and just never stops. There's no end in sight. You're literally, if you've played Robert Kiyosaki's game, it's like you're literally going around in that circle again and again and again and again until you somehow magically get out of it, But that's where a lot of people get into real estate, is to get out of that circle, is to get out of that, just doing the same thing over and over again. But a lot of investors have the same habits that they created while they were in the rat race, and they bring those habits to real estate when it comes to money, when it comes to working, when it comes to just their thought process. Just because you read a book and it ignited your passion does not mean you went from, I loved reading this book, now I'm going to be a great business owner. A business owner, it's its own set of skills. But a lot of people bring those habits over from their W-2 job into real estate, and they wonder, why am I living deal to deal now? Because now it looks a little different. Now you're not working 40 hours for someone else. You're working 80 hours for yourself, and you still feel like you're not getting anywhere. Like, all this business is eating up expenses, and I have no idea where my money is. And I have to have that next deal. I have to wholesale that next deal or flip that next deal just to put food on the table. And if it gets pushed back or doesn't close, we might be in trouble, as a family. And I see that over and over again because they're taking the same philosophies. Just because they've read a couple books and they started the business does not mean that they've changed philosophies for some other things that are just fundamental to business ownership. And it's like, then they just get stuck. Now it's instead of the smaller wheel, now it's just a bigger one that is more costly to them in time, money, efficiency. Everything goes out the window because they're starting something from scratch now, but with a set of habits and philosophies that weren't serving them back in their W-2 job.
And that's where you come in. So you
break
come
that
in,
cycle.
Yeah. So you come in, you see this all the time, real estate investors, and I've seen this, I've experienced this for many years. We do deal after deal, and 1 month's great. The next month, all our money's gone and it's tied up, and we don't know what happened to it. And sometimes we're broke, sometimes we're rich. And you spend years, most people spend years like this. So that's where you kind of come in. You've created this profit first model for real estate investors. So let's just kind of talk us through the model. And let's just talk the next step. You talk about paying yourself first.
Yeah.
So
a lot of people, when they jump into entrepreneurship, think I just have to hustle and grind and take the scraps, and just give oxygen to my business and just give everything back to it. Like anything, I have to reinvest every single dollar. And even if that means I'm going to hurt for several years, it'll be okay because it'll all be worth it someday in the future. But if you build that in from the very beginning, that someday becomes no day in the future. It becomes a day that never happens. So that's where one of the biggest mistakes entrepreneurs and real estate investors in general make is not paying themselves right at the beginning. And I'm not even talking about, it's not like you have to totally cover your salary if you're still working part-time and if you're just starting up in real estate. I'm not saying you have to quit your job once you're fully integrated with your business and it's just humming and everything's great and you've got as much as you want and more. What I'm talking about is creating a habit right up front, because we get this bogus formula fed to us from accountants, bookkeepers, people not running a business, or people that think they're running a business, but they still have the bad habits. They give us the formula that it's sales minus expenses equals profit, meaning I make a sale, I pay everyone else and their mother, and whatever I have left over is the profitability, which keeps us in that constant rat race. We constantly just feed our expenses, hoping that we can spend our way out of the hole. And that never works. Does that work in your personal finances? It's like the things that we think about that are very just fundamental also apply in the business world as well too. But we've got this culture that glamorizes the hustle, the grind, just sacrifice everything on the altar, of your family, of the money, of the success, like in order to get to success someday in the future. And that's that formula that's kind of baked into us as entrepreneurs. But then on the back end, this is what I love about Profit First. It's first this mindset that says, no, here's the formula you should have as a business owner, as a startup, or as someone who is building a business from the ground up that you should have that will help you the rest of your life. It's sales minus profit equals expenses, meaning I make a sale, I build in my profit first and take it off the table. Then what I have left over is to grow the business and reinvest and put it all back into it. But I have to make sure I'm healthy first, because what we focus on expands. If we're always focused on expenses, we get caught in that rat race and that deal cycle, living deal to deal all the time. But if we actually build in profitability, even when we first start, even if it's only 1% and you're just getting in the habit of putting profit first, then when you're a small company, then when you're a bigger company, you should still have those same habits. And now the percentages probably can increase. And now you could pay yourself on a full salary. And maybe now it's time to quit your job because now you don't need the job anymore to support you. It's like now we're putting first things first because you have to be profitable. We did not start our businesses, Brett, to not be profitable and just to pay expenses. Like no one starts it going into it saying, I want to have 6 figures of expenses my first year or, for the next few years or a month. They go into it saying, this is what I want from my business, the financial freedom or the impact I want to make, or, they have these grand dreams, but then they sacrifice it on the immediate altar of, I just have to pay this next expense, or I have to do this without paying myself. And then they get stuck into that formula, that rat race formula of sales minus expenses. It's always, I make a sale, I pay everything else, and hopefully I have something at the end of the day. We got to flip that around and put that profit first, so you are making profit a habit in your business.